Howdy folks, I'm Brian and here's some Reddit. Our first story is titled, Am I a Jerk for Falsifying My Son's DNA Test? Long story. My twin brother was a hot mess and died of a drug overdose in 2009. His girlfriend announced that she was pregnant and gave birth in the back of an abandoned bus. Obviously, she lost custody. I was next of kin, so I adopted my nephew. We refer to each other as father and son, and he is doted on by everyone. My son was diagnosed with a rare form of diabetes last year, and his doctor told him it was genetic. I have no one with that in my family. I mentioned it was probably from his mother's side. That sparked an interest in learning about his family tree. He asked for a 23andMe DNA test, which I gladly bought for him, knowing it would show people from our side of the family. Nothing shocking. Well, I was shocked. When his results were ready, I viewed them before he did. He is not blood related. He's basically Russian and Ashkenazi on the paternal side when it shows German and English on my side. It made sense. He looks nothing like me or his birth mom. This doesn't change anything, but it would destroy him to find out. My kid wanted to see the results himself, so I showed him mine pretending it was his. He thought it was the coolest thing ever. I feel guilty beyond belief, because he and I have always been transparent with our relationship and I am deceiving him. Well, OP, while I think that you had the best of intentions in mind, this was not the right thing to do. And certainly I can understand not wanting to crush your son, but he may need to know that he has a certain family tree for genetic reasons. And if his family has other conditions that are genetically related to him, then it would be good for him to know that. Now, it might be disappointing both to you and him, but the thing is that, like you said, it's not going to change anything with your relationship, and it's not going to change who he is. He will always be your son. And again, this might spark more interest in him, and he might want to find out even more about his family tree. So, good luck, and I hope that you come clean to your son. Our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Keeping My Husband's Comfort Bear that holds an audio clip of his dead ex until he goes to therapy? When my husband was in high school, he dated his best friend at the time for 2 months. They didn't break up. She died in a car accident. God rest her soul. I also attended the same high school, albeit as a student 2 years junior, but we only started dating after we both went to college and that we were close by each other. From when we started dating to now, my husband has a stuffed bear with an audio clip of his ex saying, I love you, in it. You know, one of those bears that you squeeze and they say the audio. Every night he squeezes it and supposedly helps him fall asleep. He never went to therapy to get over her death, and the fact that he still has the bear and squeezes it to help him fall asleep at least once every night leads me to believe that he still hasn't moved on from her death. At first, when we first started dating, I was okay with it. I know that everyone has different times for processing loss, and she wasn't just his lover, but also based on what he told me, she was his best friend who was there for him during some hard times in his life. However, as the years went on, and he remained attached to the bear, if not more so, I suggested and started pushing for therapy. He admittedly refused at the time, saying that we couldn't afford it, which was true, because we were both struggling financially. Now, however, we are both financially stable and able to afford therapy. He still refuses to go. We got into a huge fight about it yesterday, and I ended up taking his bear. I told him that I won't give it back until he promises to either attend some sort of online counseling or actual therapy when this pandemic is over. My husband is extremely upset with me. I wonder why. I don't want him to get rid of the bear by any means. I think it's a lovely idea to continue to honor the memory of his best friend, but his attachment to the bear is nuts. He needs to hug it every night, no matter what. He panics if he can't find his bear. He panics if I take it for a bit to wash and clean it, etc. I want him to keep the bear, but I want him to stop being so attached to it. I communicated this with him several times over the years, but he has either brushed me off or told me that I'm disrespecting his ex. I know at face value what I did is definitely the jerk move, but I think I have enough justification and reason behind my actions. It's going to be 22 years next month since she died, and I just don't think obsessive attachment for this long is healthy. Still, though, my husband hasn't talked to me since the fight, unless it's him defending the bear. I'm starting to feel like what I did was wrong. Edit. I don't know how it got so twisted, but I'm not jealous of the bear or his late girlfriend. The issue isn't the bear, it's my concern for my husband's mental health. Maybe I just made a poor judgment call, but be sure that I wasn't acting out of my own jealousy. I am going to kind of give you the benefit of the doubt here, and I do think that you are acting out of concern for your husband. It seems like you are taking care of the bear, you're trying to keep it clean, and you think it's a nice gesture to honor his, deceased friend. And I think that's all really good, and I think that's all really positive, but you can't force someone to go to therapy. He's going to have to make this decision on his own, and he's going to have to, work towards processing this death in his own way. I do understand your concern here because it does sound like he might have a bit of an, over attachment to this bear. But also, this is a really sad story, and I think that he wants to hear her voice, and he wants to make sure that everything is all right. And I think that that's the way that he processes this in some ways. This is hard because, mental health is always a really tricky and difficult thing. It doesn't really sound like he's hurting anyone with his attachment. It does sound like it causes some friction and it causes some issues in your relationship, but it doesn't sound like in general he is hurting anyone. But again, taking away his bear isn't going to help the situation, and in fact, it might even make things worse. So, yeah, good luck, and I hope that your husband is able to process grief in his own way. Our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Getting Annoyed When My Boyfriend Takes Naps? Since we both started working from home, I'm a 26-year-old female, I noticed that my boyfriend, a 27-year-old male, takes a nap almost every day. It's not at a scheduled time, he usually will be on his phone during a break and fall asleep on the couch. He doesn't always set an alarm to wake himself up. He recently missed a therapy appointment, and other times he'll fall asleep on a workday and have to work later. The nature of his work allows him to have flexible hours as he gets his projects done. This makes me nervous because I'm always worrying about him missing an appointment or a work meeting. I feel the pressure, self-inflicted, to monitor him and wake him up at a reasonable time. I shared this with him and he says I shouldn't mind him and just let him suffer the consequences of his own actions. Am I a jerk for getting annoyed with how he doesn't set alarms for his naps? So while I understand your concern here, and I think that you have actually really good intentions here, it doesn't really sound like he cares if he misses these things. In relationships, we like stability and we like to make sure that everything is going well. And in some way, you might be more worried about the consequences of he's missing these things. Like, what are you worried about? Well, you're worried that if he misses his work meeting, then it's going to reflect poorly on him and that he might either get fired or, things might kind of come back to bite him. And as for the therapy, you might be worried that there's a financial cost to this or that this is, it's not helping him. And so I can understand it from that point of view too. But if you know that he has a therapy appointment and you try to wake him up for it when he's napping and he doesn't set an alarm and he refuses to, wake up and he even gets mad at you for helping him out, then I think then that probably makes him a little bit of a jerk because you're trying to just help him. So I think that probably in this situation, you get a very gentle jerk, and I think that he probably gets a very gentle jerk as well. So I think that there's not a clear answer here, and unfortunately, it just seems like you two are very different in your approach to these things. Anyhow, good luck. All right, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for telling my girlfriend, a 25-year-old female, that I, a 27-year-old male, would want a paternity test if I ever got her pregnant? I've dated Britt for about 4 years and things are going incredibly serious. We are at a point where we are talking about marriage. A while ago, we were talking about kids. The good news is that me and her both want a kid one day. I decided that when I was a teenager, no matter what, if I got a woman pregnant, I would get a paternity test before I signed anything saying that I was the father. I told my girlfriend this, and she was absolutely angry. My girlfriend accused me of not trusting her, and I assured her that wasn't the issue. That being said, I think I might have some issues resolving this. I am not my father's biological child. I am the child of my mom and a boyfriend she was with for a year. My mom eventually broke it off with him. She was unknowingly pregnant, and when she found out that she had been nearly a month since she had seen him, so she assumed I was my dad's. I came out half black, and my mom confessed. I didn't even know this story because my parents lied to me about my mom having black grandparents. It wasn't until I was like 13 and I put 2 and 2 together. Britt knows that I'm a product of infidelity and knows that I have some trauma from it. So I thought she'd be understanding, but she was not. She said that if I don't trust her not to be faithful, that maybe we need to rethink our relationship. I told Britt it wasn't about me distrusting her, that I thought it would be a good idea for anyone. I said that everyone gets cheated on and trusts their partner, and that people think that their partners are going to cheat on them and to end the relationship. She argued that if I wanted a paternity test, that literally means that I have doubts about the baby being mine. I said that as a man, I don't really have much in the way of knowing if a baby that she gives birth to is mine or not, and that it doesn't hurt just to see it written out. She said she doesn't want to talk about it for a while, and she needs to think about our relationship since we're lacking in trust for one another. She is pretty sore at me for this. I spoke to my older sister about this, and she called me a jerk for what I did. Am I a jerk? All right, OP, I'm going to say very gently that you're the jerk here. I think that you probably need to go into therapy and work through these trust issues. Your girlfriend isn't the one who lied to you. Your parents are the people who lied to you. Relationships require trust, and they require a mutual understanding. And by suggesting the paternity test without any reason at all, it kind of makes it seem like you don't trust her. I think that is problematic because it seems like you trust her and you want to believe her, but that you've made this decision a long time ago that you're going to hold yourself to this and you want to make sure that you test the child. Well, is it going to really make any difference? Would it have made any difference in your parents' relationship? Do you think that your father would have broken it off halfway through the pregnancy? And honestly, it doesn't really sound like it because he ended up caring for you as his own. If he was really going to break it off, then he would have broken it off. And so I think oftentimes people think that blood is more important than, family. And family doesn't always have to be blood related. You can have family and have a great family even if it isn't blood related. If for some reason your girlfriend had a child and you suspected for some reason that it wasn't your child, then I think it would be reasonable to approach her and say, look, I'm not sure that I'm convinced that this child's mine. Maybe we should get a paternity test. This is a really hard situation. I can understand why you would want to know if the child was yours, but I also feel like you should have enough trust and faith in your partner so that you don't have any questions about this. Well, anyhow, good luck, and I hope that you can work through these trust issues that you have that your parents brought upon you. So my boyfriend has been talking about wanting to watch Star Wars with me for our entire relationship, almost 2 years now. I, however, do not want to. I just hate the idea of watching it, and I have watched half hour of one of the old ones, and it was boring and it didn't interest me. Don't come for me. I'm allowed to have my opinion. I've sort of developed this mentality that I never ever want to watch a full Star Wars movie. Now, the other day, I suggested watching The Platform. Great film, by the way. I would recommend watching. A little after eating, though. And he said he didn't think he would enjoy it, but he said that since I liked it, he would try it. He watched the film and said he didn't enjoy it, but he thought the concept was very good. Now he's saying he watched The Platform after saying he didn't think he would like it and that I should watch Star Wars. But he didn't say he hated the idea of it and he never wanted to watch it. In fact, he said that he would watch it. I've tried a bunch of old movies with my boyfriend, like North Northwest, utter crap by the way. Apparently people in the 60s didn't know what acting was, even though I knew I wouldn't like them. I just don't want to watch Star Wars. It's a matter of principle. It's upsetting him more and more though, but in my opinion, I should be allowed to not watch Star Wars, since I wouldn't force him to watch a film he was totally against the idea of. I don't know, man. Am I a jerk since it's upsetting him? Alright, OP. So I'm going to say that this one is a hard call. It's really hard to say whether you are a jerk or not. And I think the reason why is that relationships are a complicated thing, and sometimes it's hard to know how much to give and take in a relationship. Your boyfriend seems like he really wants to share Star Wars with you, and he's excited, and he wants to relate to you on this, and this is something that inspires him, or it is a deep part of himself, and he wants to share it with you. And I think probably by rejecting Star Wars, he feels like you're rejecting a part of him. And I'm not saying that you are, but it might feel that way with him. I would sit down with your boyfriend and ask him why it's so important for you to watch Star Wars, and try to understand where he's coming from in this case. Sometimes in relationships, you're going to have to make sacrifices and reach beyond what you're comfortable doing and watch things that you're not necessarily interested in. And I see that you're doing that with a lot of different movies and stuff like that. And so I do understand that you're making an effort here, but also it seems like this is something that seems extremely important to your boyfriend. Now, with, for instance, my wife, she loves horror movies, and I'm not generally interested in horror movies, but I'm happy to sit down and watch horror movies with her. I know that they're going to be not my favorite thing in the world, but she enjoys them and they're a part of her. And through watching these movies, I feel like I can come to a better understanding of her. And, there have even been a couple of horror movies here and there that I've actually enjoyed and thought that they were really had some fun ideas behind them in the end. Even though horror isn't my thing and it isn't what I would normally, gravitate towards watching. So again, I think it depends on how important this is to him and whether you feel like it's reasonable to go outside of your comfort zone to accommodate him in this. Anyhow, good luck, and I hope you can come up with something. Alright, our last letter for tonight is titled, Am I a jerk for telling my daughter she can't splatter paint all over her room? Hi, my older daughter is a 16-year-old female and is artistically minded. To my surprise, apparently she decided to repaint her own room. And by repaint, I mean she has splattered and smeared paint all across her walls. It looks like an abstract modern art, but if a little kid did it, on the walls. I yelled at her and told her that she needed to repaint it herself immediately to look normal. She cried, and my wife says that I'm being too harsh on her. But I honestly think it's really ugly, embarrassing for her room to look like this, and I worry about the example it sets for our younger daughter, 5, to be immature and destructive. Am I a jerk? Yes, I think you are a jerk here. You don't have to live in your daughter's room. And she painted her room in a way that she liked and that she thought was cool and neat. There are lots of people who do questionable things when they are young in the respect of look at disco. A lot of people look back at the bell-bottom jeans and the polyester suits of the 70s and are like, oh, that was a horrible idea. Why did anyone ever do that? What's important is that your daughter likes this. She's not hurting anyone. She painted her room. It doesn't sound like she made a mess. It just sounds like she made her room artistic. And I think that you really risk squelching her aspirations of art if you tell her that she has to change her room back to whatever, drab, plain walls that she was living with before. So yeah, I think you're being overly harsh, and I think that you owe your daughter an apology. Anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Consider giving me a like if you did. Consider giving me a dislike if you didn't. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.